Boo! Oh, wrong intro.
What other intros are there?
I could give you the Pokemon theme tune.
Yes.
I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test. To train them is my cause.
Gotta catch them all.
Oh, come on.
I don't know why they didn't use that version in the original. Pokenuns.
That is for the after party.
Gotta catch them all.
Gods. Utter nonsense. Cool. Right, professional, serious. Cool, I'm ready.
Ready?
Ready.
Or not. Here I come.
Bad, Alaska, bad.
Come follow us on Only Nuns for more. Sorry, I'm doing the intro for the wrong show.
That's the next one we're going to do, don't worry.
Hello, I'm Sister Alaska Lott.
And I'm Sister Babeushka.
And this is Utter Nonsense.
Show where we pour a cup of tea.
And we utter whatever nonsense pops into our heads. We do a new episode every month, and I promise sometimes we try to be serious about it.
As you can tell, this is a laid-back show between friends. It's supposed to get better at this over time, right?
What are we going to talk about today?
Well, today we've got a nice big topic to get into. Today, we're going to look at gender diversity in drag.
To be fair, that's an absolutely mammoth thing to chat about. There is so much to say, and we'll probably say a lot and then have to cut out most of it.
Even then, we won't have touched on half the things you could even talk about.
Maybe we should start with the most obvious one, which is that we are drag nuns. Surprise!
Oh shit, nobody told me. Can't believe nobody told me I was a drag nun. What the fuck?
So we do have an interest, clearly, in drag and how drag is represented. And we do represent it in quite an unorthodox way compared to most drag artists. So the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence have been around for a while. I'm trying to remember how long. Is it 40 years we're at now? 41?
40, 41, yeah. I can't remember if it's like, yeah, I'd say 40-ish.
And using drag as one of the ways in which we manifest what we're doing is something that's been part of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence for the entire time, really. It's always been there. And it's only, I suppose, in more recent years that drag as a whole has become something that's entered the mainstream and is now really visible all over media.
Yeah, it's definitely been a noticeable trend, I think, within the last 5 or 10 years, where it's actually become a conversational topic that, generations will talk about. And it's not just confined to, people of the LGBT plus community who partake or go see drag, but actually almost everyone, I think, in the country has at some point or another heard about drag because of this opening up in mainstream media, which has been quite interesting.
It's really good that it is becoming so much more mainstream and accepted.
Yeah, I mean, my sort of first interaction with drag, I actually am lucky enough that I went to the same high school, and just a couple of years difference between one of the more sort of famous drag queens in Edinburgh anyway. At the time, meeting them during like high school hours and that, and like hearing of them, no idea what drag was back in early 2000s. I'm not going to tell you how far back that is. But yeah, it was, you know, even looking there that like, you know, late noughties of 2008, 2009, whatever, and seeing that, oh, don't really know what drag is. And then 10 plus years, everyone knows what drag is. We've evolved as drag artists in a way for our community. And it's just such a seismic shift, it feels like, from, you know, even just a decade of time. It's just crazy.
You actually went to school with a drag queen. That's really cool.
I mean, obviously their career didn't really kick off till after high school, but yeah, they were just at the beginning phases of like exploring the art.
It's amazing how much it's exploded onto the scene. But I do feel like, and this is like key to what we're chatting about today, is that the focus has been so heavily on drag queens. And it's just this one representation of an entire drag community and the artistry that goes with that. And it irks me somewhat.
It's really frustrating when people talk about how amazing drag is, and then when even in Edinburgh, it's like, oh yeah, this drag queen or that drag queen, but nobody talks as much about the talented drag kings we've also got on the scene, where, you know, drag artists who are neither king nor queen, but are something different. And even ourselves as, you know, queer nuns, drag nuns, it's always interesting to see that the focus is on one aspect rather than realizing that there's a whole spectrum of drag out there.
One of the things that I really like about drag in terms of Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence is that it's also open to lots of different expressions of drag and gender, and is a very deliberate form of gender fuckery. Can we say that on YouTube?
Okay.
It's a very deliberate form of gender fuckery, and it's completely accepted and encouraged to combine different elements of different genders in whatever way you see fit, because your sister persona is what you make of it. You don't have to fit a mold. The whole point is that we're not fitting a mold. We're fighting the system, the cis-het system.
Yeah, like the huge amount of different looks you'll get from various sisters across the world in the order of Perpetual Indulgence. It's just really interesting to see everyone exploring what they want their activism to look like, and even then not being confined in oneself to do anything, you know, having sisters that do really creepy faces and really act up that for certain points of the year, and on other points they're really genteel and welcoming looking. It's interesting that people have that freedom to explore that as well, and it's just showing that drags are another art form that isn't defined by gender. It's just your creativity and what you put into it and what you want to make of it.
So in terms of the representation that is in the mainstream media for drag, I'm going to be honest, I very much blame RuPaul's Drag Race. I both credit and blame, probably quite equally. It's definitely been instrumental, I think, in bringing the art of drag to the fore, but it's usually been so focused on one particular type of drag and one particular representation of gender in drag, and it just
I totally agree with that, in that, you know, I think it does have credit for really propelling drag into the mainstream. But yeah, the fact that there has been a focus of that show, and when you talk about drag, you know, that is one of the first shows that will generally come up, if not the first for everyone. But there are other shows now that, you know, that have become more popular along with RuPaul, such as Dragula. There was another one, I can't remember what it was called, but I think it was following a Manchester house of drag artists, and they were going around on a bus to communities and like somebody to do drag to help with their confidence. It was on Channel 4 just last year, but I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, which is really annoying.
I think I probably caught some clips of it on YouTube, and it did look quite interesting.
Drag SOS, that was it.
Who knew that's what people needed in their lives? Yeah, I feel like Drag Race probably came first, and it kind of paved the way for these other shows. And I don't know if you've ever gone back and watched some of the earliest seasons, like later on. There's stuff in there that's just so painfully inappropriate, like the use of slurs, like actual legit slurs, and criticizing queens for not conforming to their narrow idea of what drag should be, and it's quite painful to watch.
Yeah, like when I first discovered RuPaul, it was like 4 or 5 seasons in already. So I was like, oh, cool, I've got something to binge. And even then, just watching like the way the announcements were made, and that's an interesting choice. And then the controversy around when queens had been involved in the show, and then they'd went off and they'd realized that actually, you know, they didn't feel comfortable in their body, and so they were going to transition, or that, you know, they were non-binary. And it was a lot of issues around that as well, where, oh, well, you can't be a drag queen if you're, you know, if you're female. And I'm like, why? Which I think probably helped, you know, skew public perception, which, you know, is problematic in many ways.
Yeah, like I think RuPaul actually was on record in the press as saying that it needs to be a man doing female impersonation because anything else just isn't edgy enough, basically. I can't remember his exact words, but he was like, it takes the danger out of it. It's not even worth doing, is the kind of message that came across there. It's still a form of art. I mean, women don't look like this in everyday life. It's still art.
What?
There's no room for drag kings there. And drag kings are amazing, can I just say? I love drag kings. This season for Drag Race has their first openly trans male as a contestant, which is still, I'm really glad that there's an inclusion of the trans community properly, finally, from the get-go, but we're still excluding so many other genders and forms of drag that it still bothers me, because it's still basically gatekeeping and saying that you have to be someone who appears male, doing female impersonation, and that's what drag is. And that's not all there is to it.
Yeah, the idea that anyone is confined because of the, you know, their gender identity or what's in their pants, in a sense, it seems really strange, because it's about an art form and expression, and, you know, our faces are caked in makeup and outfits that are fabulous. You don't need a particular gender at all to operate any of that. So it does feel really gatekeeping in that sense, and really almost against the idea of drag to begin with, which is all about gender fuckery and just huge expressions and confidence and building a personality.
Yeah, I feel like drag is a disruption to gender norms. I can't even find the words. It annoys me so much.
So much rage.
For a long time, I've thought it would actually be really interesting to see a Sister of Perpetual Indulgence on something like Drag Race. But I really don't think it would be allowed, because they would say, oh, we want you to do something different. Don't be a nun all the time. Whereas I would just love to see a drag nun go through the whole thing.
It would be interesting, I think, to watch like a drag nun incorporate how, you know, because really it's just like the headpiece, the scapula, and then like you can have your own outfit and do whatever. So I don't think it's too restricting when you see some of the looks that they have to come up with, like make a dress out of hair or make a creepy look or do this or that. I think it would be really interesting to have, you know, members of the order just go through their own version of Drag Race almost. But yeah, we're just going to follow this season and we're going to make our own looks based on this, because fuck it, we don't need to be on the show to be valid in making our outfits.
That's very true. I would love to see them on the show, though. I think it would really send a message out there, a much more progressive message than the show's traditionally had, and really raise the profile of what we as an organization are trying to do. I just think it would be fabulous, and it'd be so different from what anyone's really seen before in the mainstream. Someone should do it, not me. I don't have the skills.
I was just about to say, is this our application video for season Drag Race?
I can't sew for shit. Like,
oh yeah, that can.
But I'm sure there are sisters out there who have the skills and are drag artists, you know, in their own right, outside of their sister persona. It would be such a cool thing to try.
Yeah, it would be. Or even if not Drag Race, you know, getting into something like Dragula or other sort of medium, just to, again, give that prominence that there's not just pageantry or, you know, like certain aspects to drag where it's literally open to everything. It's just how you apply it.
But you did mention that there are other drag shows as well, like Dragula. I'm going to admit I've actually not watched much of it. I only recently started watching it, but I was aware of it, and I was aware that it was much more open in its inclusion of people of different genders and sexualities, and I totally, totally respect that. Plus, combining drag with basically Halloween, which is one of my favorite things ever, just sounds amazing.
Yeah, I will admit I've also not seen much of Dragula other than sort of snippets here and there. So, but even just hearing like some of the things and seeing some of the pictures from that, and just the more sort of freedom to explore and try different things, I think is really interesting. Some of our more mainstream shows have focused on pageantry and looking a particular way or performing in a certain way, while other shows are now allowing people to fully explore what they want to do with drag. And I know with Drag SOS, when I watched that, it was interesting to see the sort of difference between the expression of drag from a UK focused side rather than a US side. You know, back before we had RuPaul in the UK as well now. So it was really interesting to get a more sort of homegrown feeling on what drag is in the UK, which was quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
Slay, yes, Hunty.
Drag Race has a lot to answer for. Like, there's a whole range of UK gay and drag terms that have just fallen by the wayside because they've been like, these American ones have just been slapped over the top, and that's what people have learned from mainstream media, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah, it's annoying. I will say it has been really nice to see actually 2 Scottish queens representing. There were none last time, and it's like, Scotland does drag too. You could like show us somewhere, because otherwise I don't see it in any media whatsoever.
Yeah, it was almost like you could be forgiven for thinking there is no drag scene in Scotland, which is not true at all. That's another type of diversity. We want regional diversity. We want to see queens and kings and drag acts from everywhere.
Everyone should just do drag.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that's a saying, isn't it? Oh, it's a RuPaul saying. Something, something, and the rest is drag.
Google is my friend today. Google is my friend today. Oh, you're born naked and the rest is drag. RuPaul.
There you go. You're born naked and the rest is drag. So technically everything's drag according to Ru.
Oh,
ridiculous. It's so odd actually that like even on his show there's been, you know, chat about how people from different ethnic backgrounds have not had proper representation and stuff, despite the fact that Ru is not a Caucasian man himself. Like, I don't get it. I don't get it. It's really weird that Drag Race has been accused of
systemic racism.
Yes.
Yeah.
Where is the diversity and the love for so many different types of artists?
Even the whole, you know, controversy around like having queens that are not on the thin side but on the larger side, and having to deal with that, and the fact that like, oh no, they never make it past like 2 or 3 episodes because they always get chucked out or something, and he always has, you know, he'll let 1 or 2 in, and it's like, what? Why can't people of all shapes and sizes and backgrounds just be involved? What's this about?
I do think that as a show, oh, there's so many things. I feel that it's quite ableist as well. Like, There's a lack of representation of people with different accessibility requirements and things. I'm sure there must be so many drag artists that would fit into that category that are just not being represented. Not every queen should need to be able to do splits and death drops, and like that's just ridiculous.
And like for the latest season of 13, at least they've actually got a queen that has a colostomy bag and everything. So obviously her outfits are to deal with that and cover that. So it's interesting that they're allowing people with different backgrounds, you know, both medically and various other things as well, actually have that chance to play about. And it's nice that you're not hearing well, why aren't you showing my body, or why aren't you cinching? It's like, you fucking know why, don't fucking try it for a change.
If you just make everyone have to meet these ridiculous requirements, all drag's just going to be the same, and it's boring, and it's no longer fighting against people's expectations of gender. I mean, it goes against the point.
Pretty much.
And he's a fracker.
Yeah, I fucking hate that. I'm just grateful for the platform it has given other queens to showcase their talent. I'm just frustrated it has not given the platform to everyone equally.
Mm-hmm. Gatekeeping at its finest.
Fucking fracker.
Yeah, it's not all about looks either. There's intention behind it, and you know, the intentional fucking with gender norms is such an important part of it, and it gives people the ability to discover more about themselves as well. Doing this has been an interesting journey for me. So I'm non-binary, and people assume that I'm female. Thanks, folks. And despite feeling uncomfortable with the feminine side of myself, and always having felt uncomfortable with it, I chose to be a sister. And for me, that was a deliberate choice, because I wanted to try and explore and become more comfortable with that side of myself that I've always felt tension with.
Confessional with done. I think for myself also, as another non-binary person, you know, my journey with the sisters has been more around you know, as a male presenting person outside of all this, so it's always been a difficult idea of how does one play about with gender and this more feminine side, and when society is like, no, don't do that, you man, don't do that, that's bad. And I'm like so being involved in the sisters and getting to play up to a character that is definitely outside of who I am as a person, just generally, regardless of gender, being too extroverted, I'm like, nah. It's been interesting to get a chance to play about with that more femininity side of things as well, and see how does it feel wearing a dress outside. So yeah, it's been really interesting from that aspect that drag has, you know, having this drag persona to allow that self-exploration, which I think we're both touching on here, is we've got to explore sides of ourselves.
One thing that I've not done that I would really love to do is explore like the facial hair side of things, because I know there are other brothers and sisters who do like fake beards and things if they are unable to grow their own, or they choose not to grow their own. And there is a brother in our house who does like the most amazing beards, and at some point I really need to try and get to grips with fake beardage.
I expect when we can next meet in person, you to have a full Gandalf.
They did show me how to do it once before I was ever a member of the order. So I do have a photo of me in like my normal face, but with a big hairy biker beard. And oh, it was the best thing ever. And all the way home, like as I was driving home, I was sitting there stroking my beard in the car.
Obviously doing that safely with one hand on the wheel, one hand stroking away, yeah?
If I was stopped at traffic lights, I'd sit there and I'd stroke my beard. And I could see other people looking at me. I'm like, yes, my beard is awesome. I will have to insert a photo of the beard and disguise my face in some way. It's a great beard. I really did enjoy it.
Just Photoshop on a big pair of glasses over your eyes so all you see is the beard. I'm wondering, does it go on like before the white face paint to start with, or is it on after? I'm not.
That's a great question. So if you want it to look realistic, you're better to put it on first and then do your makeup. Because if you had a real beard, you wouldn't put your beard on after your makeup. Your beard's on your face already. And then, you know, that messiness of trying to get the makeup sorted with your beard is what would happen in real life. I mean, it was a fascinating workshop. You know, they brought through a bearded person and we all stood around staring really close at his beard, examining what beard should look like.
Nice beard you got there.
I've got this friend on TikTok, this friend who's a drag king, and they do fake beards, but theirs are pre-made. So it's kind of like having a wig, but for your face. And a lot of theirs are lit up as well, and they look so cool. And I have to say, there's been a few times I've looked at it and been tempted to go and buy one.
A light up beard is something that I would consider, funnily enough. I'm like, ooh.
They look so fancy.
Maybe I should just grow my own damn beard and just shove lights in it and be done with it. I can grow it out, and then once I get sick of it, I can just cut it off. But therefore, I have the beard.
It'd be interesting.
Sounds like a disaster waiting to happen, I can tell.
Would you not have to grow it quite long in order to then make it into a fake beard?
Nah, I've not got the patience or the time for that, actually. You're right. I'll just get the fake beard. Yeah, it's not worth it. I'll just get a fake beard. I'll be fine.
So, fake beards it is. Fake beards.
Fake beard. So obviously today we've had a very short look into the huge topic that is gender diversity and drag, you know, touching on how drag has become more mainstream, both with its benefits and its less than positive outcomes, I feel. And also looking at the different avenues that we've seen drag being expressed in, and also touching on how, you know, your gender does not define your art as a drag artist in any way whatsoever. And it is open to everyone to explore that. I think it's definitely the ending message we'd like to recap on that.
Absolutely. We would very much love to see, you know, all sorts of representation in drag. And I know today we were talking specifically about gender, but, you know, there's also the issue of ethnicity as well, where there's an awful lot of white cis male drag queens, and there's so much more to the drag community than that, and we love it in all of its glory. And I suppose thank you for coming and listening to us have, I don't know about you, but for me it was a little bit of a rant about gender representation in drag.
I think it is a necessary rant, though, because by holding other people to account, you know, for excluding and gatekeeping people, we're showing that we want it to be better. It's not that we're, you know, we're angry or ranting about the fact that drag's become mainstream. We just want it to be accessible to everyone. So no, I think it's been a bit of a rant, but also I think it's been a bit of a, hopefully an eye-opener for people, and just helping other people feel more comfortable that if you want to go and play about and see, do you want to do drag? Do you want to play in that arena? Fucking do it, you know?
We've chatted a little bit about various different shows which, you know, showcase drag. And that is probably going to lead us on quite nicely to what we're going to talk about in next episode.
Yes, I think we've tried to time this as well as we could, so that next time what we're going to talk about is more around RuPaul's Drag Race, one of the biggest drag shows you probably hear about. So we're going to talk about that next week and go in a bit more about some of our sort of favourite queens, some of the issues that have come up throughout that, and just how drag has been represented in that show specifically, I feel. And hopefully it'll air around about the time you've all figured out who the season 13 of the US one is the winner, and who the winner is of season 2 in the UK. So we're not going to spoil anything for you by the time it's out, don't worry.
Well, we can't, because I've not seen them. And there needs to be some drag kings on there, just saying. I'm sure I'll say that again next time, but there needs to be more drag kings, more drag diversity, please.
Yes, please. Yeah, I think the only times I've ever really gotten to see drag kings have been sort of side acts or part of a bigger ensemble. So it would be nice to have more representation and more, you know, sellout shows where drag kings are getting to perform as well, because it is underappreciated. And, you know, drag other gender insert here, you know, drag anybody.
So we should say that the next episode will be out on the 1st of next month. And in the meantime, please like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so that you get notified of when that episode is out and available. And please remember to check out our other socials. The links will be in the description of this video.
Yep. And for those listening on podcast, obviously, hopefully you've already subscribed to our feed, but if not, please do so on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're getting your podcasts. And if you feel like leaving us a lovely review on any of those platforms, that would be much appreciated. Anything else you want to close off with, Alaska, before we call it a day?
We did the thing.
We did the thing.
We did the thing.
We did the thing. We did the thing.
We did the thing. We did the thing. We did the thing. We did the thing. We did the thing.
Is that really our outro?
I mean, this will be the 3rd time that makes it a tradition.
Oh, damn it.